doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll try and get Gary Holt's awesome Atrocity Exhibit A album tone using the Marshall DSL20, MXR 10-band graphic EQ, the Fortin Grind and the noise suppressor NS2. If you've been watching this channel a while, you'll know that I'm just a massive Exodus fan. Gary's tones have always been absolutely crushing, especially with those modded JCM 800s that Todd Langner did. I just love that sound, and I guess the DSL is my take on that, and that's why I'm so gravitated towards it. So yeah, the Atrocity Exhibit A, it's just such a masterpiece. All the songs on it are so cool, and it's just such a metal record. It's just so intense with riffs and this brutal tone. I know on the album they used a PV-XXX when recording it, but we'll just try and get it today with the Marshall DSL. And something else I want to talk about is the Fortin Grind pedal. I've had it on the pedal board and I bought it months and months ago. I've been wanting to use it. It's pretty situational, but in this case, I think it does awesome. It's just really good. So we'll get into that. So let's just check out the settings on the DSL. And what we're trying to do here is just build a really solid foundation for a really aggressive tone. Gary's always renowned for having loads of bass in his riffs, and they're just really aggressive. And I find if you add too much bass and resonance in the front end of the amp, by the time it gets to the end, it's really flabby. So you've got to start with things really tight and almost do the opposite to how you want the sound to end up. It's a little bit counterintuitive, I know, but it's just the way things are. As for the mids in the amp, I've got them pushed a little bit high because I'm scooping some out in the 10-band EQ. The treble and presence, I've actually wound back just a little bit of the top end because I'm going to add that in the 10-band EQ later. I haven't added too much gain in the front end of the amp either because a lot of the EQ and the Fortin Grind really pushes through and adds a little bit more to that. And there's a sweet spot with the volume about halfway for this specific tone. Moving to the pedal board now, it starts with the Boss NS2 noise suppressor in the front end and effects loop. I've had other noise gates in the past, but I just really like this one. I think it does the job simply and I don't really muck around with it too much. It's just there. The MXR 10-band that I've got in the loop, it's really just the fine sculpting of what I want the resulting tone to be, what frequencies I want to really push through and make it sound like the record. So what I want to do now is just show you actually how the Fortin Grind pedal works. And this is a really different pedal. It's this little tiny gadget with one dial, and it seems so simple. It started off, I'm a huge fan of the Neural DSP plugins, and they did a lot of the Fortin amps there, and they're just super cool amps and really aggressive. And in those series of amps, they actually had the Fortin Grind pedal to use. I found it was really cool and just gave a really metal vibe to all those tones. So I bought one myself just to use in the live rig, just to see how it would sound with the Marshall DSL and EVH and so forth. And it's cool. It really is a cool pedal. It sort of acts like an OD. It tightens things up in the front end. It's a strange pedal to try and describe how it works, but if you've got a really bass heavy tone, it sucks a lot of that bass out. That still comes through, but the initial hit is more of a sharper, harsher attack, and then it's followed up by that bass. And just the one knob on it, it's just really interesting. So without the Fortin Grind, and now it's on. It's really hard to describe, but when I'm chugging away, it almost sounds like soldiers marching down the street. Like it's like an army. Like, I'm not affiliated with Mike Fortin in any way making this video. It's just something that I think is really cool, and it's just a different element you can have on your pedal board that gives your amp a totally different feel. And I find when it comes time to doing guitar solos, I don't need to click on any other pedal. I just let it go and it sounds really rich and full. It's not just a super aggressive tone for rhythms and then things sound thin on solos. It's actually rich across the board, which is really cool. So I'll just add a bit of delay to the riff now and just see how rich it sounds. That's just so modern and aggressive, I find, and working in conjunction with the DSL. Like, it's an old school sort of metal with this new element to it that's just really cool. It's absolutely crushing. It's probably one of the most favourite tones I've stumbled upon doing this series, that the DSL can actually do the Atrocity. It's awesome. And to go with it, this is possibly the most metal song and riff I've ever heard. This next riff is probably my favourite. It's just so cool. It's just such a cool riff. That whole thing is just, it's really tight, it's really hard, and that grind just makes it sound so cool. As for capturing the sound today, I usually use the Mesa 112 Recto in the corner with the SM57, but lately I've really been enjoying the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X, and I find it just does such a good job emulating and artificially creating that cabinet and microphone setup. It really does allow me to plug the amp pretty much straight into my audio interface, and it just adds that cabinet dimension to your tone. It's just a really simple feature and it's really cool. I find the Fortin Grind just works really good with the drop tunings, and the title track on this, the Atrocity Exhibit, it's down in drop C, so it's super low and really heavy. like that one all. That's awesome. Oh, the solo on that song is just so cool. I think it's got that real sour, bluesy sort of edge to it, and almost reminds me of a Dimebag Darrell-esque sort of solo. It's just the best on the album. That's what I really like, that sort of solo. So thanks again, guys. It's been a really fun week for me just testing out this Atrocity exhibit tone. It's one of the best tones I've ever heard on a metal record. And the fact we can just get it with a few pedals and the Fortin Grind in front of the DSL is like awesome. It's just such a great amp. It's got this old school Marshall element to it, but it's also got like a modded feel, and super aggressive. Does everything I want it to be. It's loud enough. So to be honest, I'm in my element here with this gear. None of it's really expensive. The Marshall DSL, I'm not affiliated with Marshall. I just love the sound of this amp. I just think it sounds really cool. It's cheap, it's affordable. You can dial in so many different tones on it. Loads of you guys have bought it because of my videos. It's not what I'm about. I just really enjoy dialing it in. Like, this guitar is just one of the best I've ever played, and it sounds so good. It just sounds really rich. It's actually an Indonesian-made KVX. And just with the Seymour Duncan thrash factors, it's got the graphite reinforcement rods within the neck just to keep things really stable. Rosewood fingerboards. Don't think that you got to go ebony to make metal. I think rosewood fingerboards are so better sounding than ebony, hands down. The RR5 is rosewood. This is rosewood. It just sounds so rich, I think, in comparison to a lot of ebony fingerboards. Sure, they don't look as nice, but I'm about the tone. I don't really care about how things look. It's just got to sound really great. And this guitar does. I've been picking it over others in the room just for that sheer fact that it sounds so cool and it's great to play. So for me, really, it's not about the amp at the end of the day. I just love this amp. It's the one for me. A lot of people out there don't like it, and that's just fine. What this series is more about is just more use your gear. Use what you've got. Use your EQs. Trust your ears and dial in some great tones. Get familiar with whatever gear you have and make it work for you. So all that being said, guys, I had a great time today making this, and I'll see you all again next week. Take care now. Bye.